Storing data locally is a common way to save a visitor's state between browser sessions or to pass data from one page to another while the visitor navigates your site. Now, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about the different types of storage you're going to see. Local session and memory storage are site storage stored in the visitor's browser on that device that they're using rather than on the server. So, a common use case for this might be persisting user choices across multiple pages or maintaining some kind of temporary data, maybe some kind of list that they're building, anything that you want them to have access to across that session, but maybe you don't need to save to the server just yet. By using this type of storage, you're giving your visitors a really smooth experience and a faster experience than if you had to make multiple calls to the server. Now, it's important to remember that site storage is specific to the device the user is visiting your site on. So say I'm browsing your site on my phone and you're using site storage to persist some choices that I'm making. If I then pick that session up later on my laptop, the site storage API doesn't know about the choices that I made on my phone. Each device is operating in its own environment, so the stored data is not carrying over between those two devices. The final note to remember about using site storage is that this is visible in the browser. This is not a good place to store sensitive information or anything that should be secure. There's a few key differences between the types of site storage. Local storage never expires. So, for example, if a visitor is creating a list on your site that is stored locally, those items will remain every single time they return to your site on the same device, unless they manually clear their cache or you're clearing it for them via code. Session storage persists across page refreshes, but is cleared when the browser tab or window is closed. This is useful for maintaining data while a visitor navigates your site, but ensuring that it's removed once they leave. Now, memory storage is the most temporary. This one clears both if the page is reloaded and when the visitor leaves the site. A common use case for this could be holding filter values across pages, but the kind of filters that a user would expect to have to set again when they come back and visit your site. Now let's take a look at the code to set these up. In this demo, we have 3 pages to explore each type of storage and code to get and set the storage values. We are going to start with the local storage page. At the top of your file, you will import the Site Storage SDK. If you have not used this SDK before, you may see an error that it must be installed first. In this code, we are defining 3 functions to get, set, and delete local storage. Each storage item requires a key and value that you define. When you enter a new key-value pair, you will click the button and start an asynchronous process to await local set item. To get or remove a local storage item, you will need to know the key. In this function, we are passing a key value to local.getItem. And finally, to delete a storage item, we will pass the key to local.removeItem. Next, I'm going to click on the session page in the left-hand navigation to show the page code. Session is handled the same way as local storage, except you will use the module of session and then point to the method you need, such as getItem. Finally, in the memory page, again, the code is similar, but is pointing to the memory module. Now, let's see this all in action. On the live site on the local page, set a key and value and then click the button. You will see our message that this was successful, but let's take a look at how to find this storage in your browser. I am working in Chrome, but in any browser you are using, there's a way to view these storage items. So with Developer Tools open, local storage is seen in the Application tab under Local Storage. This is the value we just added. Something important to remember here is that these values will always be stored as strings. So let's set another key and value that's a number. We can see below that this value has been converted to a string. Now to remove an item, we will target the key, and we can see that it's removed. Next, on the left-hand navigation in your DevTools panel, click on Session and you can see that the values we set for local are not stored here. Now let's navigate to Session in the site in the top navigation. Add a new key and value here. We can see that session storage value has now updated. You may notice that there is no place in the developer tools to see your memory storage. Memory is the least persistent storage, and it's handled by the storage API itself. You won't see this in these DevTools here. Click on the memory navigation item in the top page, and let's close this DevTools panel. When we set a new key and value for memory, we will rely on our message below to know that it is set. We can see the data was saved by using the get function and passing the key. If we remove this item by using the key and now attempt to get the value a second time, we can see that the memory item has now been cleared. So to wrap this up, the Site Storage SDK has 3 different ways for you to store data on your site so that your visitors can have a great experience and your code can be as efficient as possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video to get notified when more developer content is released.